Now it's time to lace up.
Good evening and welcome to the third and final episode of Laced Up this semester. I'm Rachel Hallam, joined today by Hannah Drysdale and Jessica Mendoza. Now for those of you who do not know, this show is completely ran by women from the ground up.
Still, to this day, women are underlooked and underrepresented in the sports industry. But here we are, continuing to change the game.
And to begin, we have to start by talking about Thursday night football game between the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Or should we say Myles Garrett versus Mason Rudolph. So guys, this was definitely a huge phenomenon that was outside of just the sports world. It was talked about the next day on Good Morning America, and it was talked about people all around the world. So what were your thoughts about the big fight that broke out?
This was just crazy all around. I don't think it should have gotten to this level of intensity during this game. Yes, there's going to be a lot of conflict between the two teams. It is a rivalry game. There's always going to be some bickering on the field. But, I mean, to take a guy's helmet off of his own head and hit him with it, I think that's just insane, like one step too far.
It is insane, but you have to look at what Mason Rudolph did as well, and a lot of people are talking about this right now. The fact that there's a video out there, and you can see very clearly that he's trying to take off, Myles Garrett's helmet, and it's very clear. So I think that has a lot to do with why Myles Garrett is in New York right now, trying to appeal this. He wants to know when his suspension is going to end. But I think he's also trying to prove a point that, I didn't start this. This wasn't instigated by me. I messed up, and he owns that. But I definitely think you have to look at both sides here.
I think it first started off with the officials. I think the officials should have intervened before because the Browns themselves are a very aggressive team. And so I think the officials should have been proactive and been like, hey, guys, we should stop talking smack to one another because some words were said, we don't know what was said. But something would have sparked this, obviously, I think. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. But, I mean, you're also talking about a super hostile environment. All these guys are playing their hearts out, and like I said already before, it's a huge game. It's a huge rivalry game between these two guys. And I know that, refs might need to be intervening in some situations like that, but what are they really going to be able to do? These guys aren't going to be paying attention to flags. They're not going to be listening for whistles to be going off. They're just in their own little world. They're just getting their anger out, and they're so frustrated at this time. I don't know how much the refs really could have done in that situation.
Yeah, I agree. And I think now that begs the question, well, how much of a suspension do all of these guys really deserve? I mean, both teams, the team entirely, they both got fined, which to me is a little interesting because what were the teams supposed to do in that situation? 3 of the 4 players that were involved in this did get suspensions. Mason Rudolph did get a fine, but personally, in my opinion, I think he deserved at least 1 game to be sitting out this season for really, in my opinion, starting the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about how he instigated this situation, and I don't think that any of this blame should be taken off of his shoulders. I think that he should be taking a lot of responsibility for the situation. It escalated way too fast and too quickly for the refs to even do anything or for any of the players to calm it down in any situation. So yeah, I definitely agree that Mason should be looked at and have a punishment from this situation.
Yeah, I think all players have to be punished at some point. I mean, especially Steelers center Marquise Pouncey. He actually kicked Garrett when he was on the ground after the thing kind of had been separated. Mm-hmm. And it just makes me so sad to see this happen because I personally believe that the NFL is trying to make this a safer game, especially for the quarterbacks. They are always trying to protect the quarterbacks. And to see this happen and just small little digs like that, a kick after somebody's down, I think about the kids who are watching the sport and really look up to these guys. And it's just so disappointing that they watch this and look up to them as role models.
Yeah, I think I have huge respect for Baker Mayfield. He took responsibility and said, this shouldn't have happened, and I'm so sorry that this did. So I have huge respect for Baker Mayfield because obviously if that happened to him, he would be so upset. I would be upset if that happened to me. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's outrageous. It shouldn't happen to anybody on that field. The officials are there to protect people, and those players are there to protect their quarterback and stuff, and that just shouldn't have happened at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree that I have much more respect for Baker Mayfield, but I also have a lot more respect for Odell Beckham Jr. in this situation. I mean, he talked about it after he was saying that this whole situation kind of just took away from their win that night. And this was a big win for the Browns. I mean, they're not in a very big winning season this year, and they might not be getting much out of this season, but for them to beat a team like the Steelers, that is huge for them, for their division, for themselves. So, I mean, it makes sense that Odell Beckham Jr. was upset about this, and I just feel bad for the rest of the players on the team that had to deal with this when they weren't a part of it.
Yeah, it definitely takes away from the loss. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, the CSU women's basketball team had one of the worst seasons ever last year, but with the new season just tipping off, the women are looking ahead at what they can accomplish this year. Laced Up member Angel Cooper has the story.
After an 8-22 season, the CSU women's basketball team knew it was time to sketch a new game plan. With only 5 players working on the court, the Rams' new plan had to start with a healthy bench and a new mindset.
After last year, it was kind of a devastating season, and we were kind of down from it, but we knew that we had to bounce back from that. And we put in a lot of work this summer, and we just came in with a different mentality, and I think that's helping us a lot this year.
From 2013 to 2018, the Rams were unfamiliar with losing here at Moby Arena, where they won at least 21 games every season. Turning the page from last year, they had to fill the void of losing 3 of their star players.
It's different because we all changed our way of thinking. Like, we have to prove ourselves. We have to reestablish all of our goals and just approach it a different way.
And adapting to the new sisterhood these girls are creating. It all starts with one game at a time.
I don't think a lot of us really think about last year anymore, honestly, because this year's been here since last spring. So, I mean, it's just been a whole new mindset, and it's fun to get out and start playing games now. So
we're taking one game at a time and just going about it like that, because thinking about too many games is just overwhelming, and just we kind of sometimes lose sight of the goal. And so we just want to stick to one game at a time and have that be our common goal.
And the Rams are already seeing results of their goals as they start the season 3-2. With the big test on Friday as they host their rival, CU Boulder. From Moby Arena, I am Angel Cooper, CT11 Sports.
Now, this is really interesting because of the season that the girls had last year. It was so rough and so hard to watch, but now they're off to a really good start, and Angel, you got to catch up with them.
Yes, so right now they're 3-2, which is really good for them right now because they had got transfer students and they had some players that didn't play last year because they had injuries, and so far they're looking really good, and they have a game this Friday against the Buffs, so we got to see if they're going to win or not, you know? And then also they got new jerseys as well.
Yeah, those uniforms are awesome.
Yes.
I mean, representing Becky Hammond out there, it's going to be really great, especially after seeing what she did with the Spurs this past weekend, filling in for the coaches. She's doing awesome, and for them to be representing her this game is going to be really cool.
I mean, just look at those jerseys. When I saw those released on social media, my jaw actually dropped because that's just so cool that CSU is really honoring Becky Hammond, and especially at what a perfect time. I mean, she just filled in for Greg Popovich after he got kicked out of one of their games for the Spurs. So I think it's really cool that they're kind of calling her name up and saying, "This is for you."
Absolutely.
I like their new look too. The designs for it is really nice.
Yeah, little throwback.
Yes. Absolutely. Well, the Rams are going to take a quick break, but stay tuned because we will be back for a live interview with the CSU women's hockey team. Stay tuned.
Don't let me show evil, though it might be all I take. Show me love, show me love, show me love. Yeah, I got a crick in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. Never know what to get on. But if you throw me love, I'll throw it some more. Let me show cruelty, the hand of mocking hate. And don't let me show evil, though it might be all I take. Show me.
Welcome back from the break, Rams. We are now joined by 2 women from the CSU women's hockey team. Welcome, Katie Hurley and Stephanie Talone.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for being here tonight. We're really excited to talk to you. And so you guys are on the women's hockey team. Just how did you get started with hockey?
I grew up in the hockey rink. Even before I started playing hockey, my brother, family, mom, dad, everyone played. So when I was 6, I decided, why not me too? So I picked up a stick, learned to skate, and I've been playing ever since.
That's awesome. How about you?
Oh, my dad's a big hockey fan. He grew up in Rochester, New York, and so that's a big kind of hockey area, being around Montreal Canadiens when they're winning all those cups. He played in high school, he played throughout college, and he's been a big inspiration for me, and so I think might as well follow in his footsteps and see where it goes.
That's awesome. So you guys said your season kind of started off in early September. How has it been going so far?
It's been going pretty well. We've been winning some games that we weren't sure if we were going to. Had some good battles and definitely had some good competition this year.
Yeah, we called this season our rebuilding season because we've only had, I don't know, seasons that we've been losing in the majority of our games, and so I think this year we're going to try to really take it up a little bit and see what we can do.
That's awesome. So if you could, like, looking back at your time playing this sport, is there anything that you would have done differently, like something you would change for your future?
I grew up playing guys hockey. I actually didn't start playing girls hockey until college, so I wasn't really given that many opportunities in terms of having people look at me and see how far I could go in hockey. So I don't regret at all playing guys hockey. In fact, I thought it was, in some cases, more fun.
Yeah.
But with that being said, if I really wanted my hockey career to go further after college, I probably would have looked outside of my organization, looked for those female hockey teams and see where those could have gone.
Did you also play with boys growing up, or were you always on girls' teams?
I did not. I was always on a girls' team. Actually, my family wasn't allowed to play on a boys' team just because I suffered a really bad concussion from a hit in a girls' game, and just the whole environment of playing in a men's or on a boys' team is just, it was apparently too physical, and so my parents were afraid I was going to get hit again, and that'd be the end of like my academic career or even my hockey career, and so I definitely played with my fair share of women's teams, but I think the game is different, and I think I appreciate the women's game more just because there's more strategy to it.
So after your concussion, what kept you playing? Because like that's something that's hard to bounce back from.
Yeah, for sure. A concussion is a tricky thing to come back from, but it was something that, like, hockey's a game that once you get started, you can't stop playing, and I kind of felt that after and through my recovery process, and I was just thinking, like, man, if I just stopped completely, I'd regret it for the rest of my life, and so just why not continue playing?
Was there any bumps in the road for you, or you were like, I just got to keep playing this game?
How much time do you have? I've gotten a lot of injuries in my life, especially playing guys hockey. It was funny because you either get left alone or you got targeted being a girl. So I definitely had my fair share of injuries, and I actually had a couple offers to some NCAA schools when I was in high school. And then I got one of the worst injuries I could have, and I was out for about 6 months, and I lost my scholarships. So that was hard, but as Stephanie said, you really just, once you start playing hockey, you can't quit. Yeah. And the road to recovery was hard, but I got back into it slowly, and again, I don't regret coming back. I don't regret playing at all, ever. And so those injuries I look back on now, and I'm like, okay, that happens, but I learned from them.
Definitely.
You both have obviously great passion for this sport. What is something that you could do to have other people express that same amount of passion?
I think, honestly, just getting them out to the games. I have a lot of friends who, they're like, I appreciate the sport, but I don't know anything about it. And lucky for them, hockey is one of those sports where you don't really have to understand the rules to really enjoy the game, but it does help. So I like to just take it step by step and teach my friends the game, even if it's something simple as teaching them how to play hockey or how to skate. You get this respect for those who do play, and I think it makes it all the more fun when you go out there and watch and you're like, hey, I understood that. And from there, truly, I mean, once you get into hockey, it really takes off from there. It's just, you fall in love.
So do you guys feel like, because hockey isn't the most popular sport for women to play, do you feel like you've had to face some adversity when telling people that you play hockey, and have anyone ever said anything that really kind of rubbed you the wrong way?
Very much so.
Yeah, there's actually a really funny video out there of a women's college team being interviewed, and they're asked like the what's the most ridiculous thing you've been asked as a female hockey player? And one girl said that people have asked her, do you play with figure skates on? Or do you wear pink gear? It's like, no, like we play hockey, wear hockey skates, like we do everything the guys do.
Yeah. I mean, and I still to this day get those questions like, are you sure you should be playing that sport? It's pretty tough. And how could you possibly got into it, you know? And it's, I mean, at this age, I'm able to look at them and laugh or even just take a second and be like, you know, once you understand, it's hard to get past. Or it's not hard to get past. You can definitely realize how much this game impacts a lot of people, boys and girls.
Yeah, and it's definitely impacted you both, obviously. And you guys are both seniors here at CSU. So going forward, after you guys graduate this year, do you have any plans to continue playing hockey?
Yeah, probably not too competitive after this. I definitely want to stay in the sport for as long as possible. In fact, actually, I've been taking a bunch of sports marketing classes, and I have some, kind of interviews and some people lined up with the Colorado Avalanche. That's awesome. So yeah, and I always told myself if I couldn't play forever, I wanted to be a part of the game forever. So that's my ultimate goal after, and then maybe play some drop-in hockey, beer league here and there.
Yeah, that's awesome. How about you?
Yeah, there are many opportunities to play after you're done, but probably not as competitively as when you're in college. That's why college is so intense, because once you're done, you're pretty much done. At least in hockey, that is. You can play like on recreational teams, but it's probably never going to be the same as like the CSU women's ice hockey team playing like the CU women's hockey team. Like that's a big thing to just be a part of. And so I think we're both going to miss it when we're gone, but we'll still be a part of the game in some way.
Well, continuing the topic about the future, let's talk a little bit about the dream gap. So the dream gap is something the professional women's hockey team has started a conversation about. Alexis Miller, one of the players, talks about the dream gap tour they're starting and why it is so important.
Right now with the dream gap, what we're talking about really is that when I'm growing up, I never had that dream to be a professional women's hockey player. I always wanted to play in the NHL because I didn't know anything different. And you hear us talk about it all the time, is like, if you can see it, you can be it. And for me, growing up, I couldn't see it. I didn't have that visibility of women's hockey. I didn't have those role models. And we're in such a perfect opportunity right now where we are able to be those role models and we're able to create that exposure and the visibility for future generations. And I'm hoping that someday soon, that a little girl can say, I want to be them.
So why do you guys think this this is important to close the gap, not only for hockey, but in like sports in general for girls?
Well, I mean, hockey has definitely grown since when I started playing. Like I said, there wasn't even a women's team around for a long time. And then there actually has been, in the last couple of years, has been a women's team, which is awesome. But it's definitely important to close the gap. I mean, I was a little different. I played boys hockey, so I didn't necessarily need a female role model growing up. I looked at Sidney Crosby, I looked at Nathan McKinnon and was like, hey, I can be like that too. But with that being said, it is all the more special to see a female hockey player who's reached that level and who's there. And I can easily say and have little girls say, I want to be like that. So it is important to have that notice and to have that gap closed so there's multiple opportunities for everyone who wants to play.
Yeah, I think an important thing is we want to establish a society where any girl can grow up and be like, wow, I want to do this, and that be able to happen, you know? And so I think just starting with sports is just going to be like the easiest way possible for that to happen, because then girls can just be like, well, if I can play this sport, then I can be like an astronaut and just go from there. And I think that's an important environment to create for our young women.
Absolutely, that's so important. Well, unfortunately, that is all the time we have, but thank you both, Katie and Stephanie, for joining us today. We appreciate you guys being here and for making a difference in women's sports. But don't go anywhere because Disrupted Picks is coming up next.
I, Krista, take you, Jamie, to be my wife.
When we found out that we were pregnant, we were just elated. We were just sitting there waiting for the pediatrician. She said she won't be taking you in as a client.
We are a lesbian couple, but she's just a baby. She's the one you're denying the service to.
Welcome back from the break. It is now time for Disrupted Picks.
Those of you who don't know, we discuss some of the biggest conversations in sports.
And before we get started, we sent Laced Up member Rose Carter to see what students had to say first.
I'm Rose Carter, and I'm out here on the plaza asking students about what they think about Colin Kaepernick's recent workout.
You know, he does bring a black nationalist aspect to, his message and everything else, and that's totally fine. He has his own right to showcase his values. There's nothing in the NFL that says anything against doing that. So I think it just shows his level of awareness, where he stands in his morals, his sociological and cultural aspects of what he represents, and I think it's perfectly fine. Yeah.
Do you think he'll ever be in the NFL again?
I hope so. I think he will. I think he's got enough talent to be in the NFL. So.
I guess it just kind of depends on if the NFL changes their stance or if he changes his.
So what team would you like to see him on?
Ooh, that's a great question. Personally, I'd love to see what he could do with Minnesota in particular because I know they're struggling.
I think the Broncos need him right now because, our backup's pretty good, but Broncos could use a new quarterback.
All right, so it kind of sounds like the common consensus around campus is that he could be back in the NFL soon, possibly. But what do you guys think? And especially, I think the question for today for us to discuss is that recent workout that happened on Saturday. Was that a publicity stunt, or was that really to see if he's ready to come back?
This is just such a sticky situation. You're going to have two sides of this that are going to be full force with their opinions in this. The NFL is going to back themselves up. There's going to be plenty of people backing the NFL up, but there's also going to be plenty of people backing him up. You listen to his representatives, they already talk about why he moved the training to a different location. He wanted to be transparent and open and have the media there. And so I don't necessarily see it as a publicity stunt. He's been pretty much blackballed from this league for 3 years now. All he wants to do is play football, so why not give him a shot?
Yeah, and quickly, let's talk about why he moved locations, because really, I think there's a lot of controversy around that as well. Yeah. People saying that he's just here to mess around, he's not for real. But the reason that I understand that he switched locations was because when he got there, they wanted him to sign a waiver. Mm-hmm. Of course, every player has to sign a waiver when they start a workout, but this waiver was different, and the NFL, I'm sure they knew that they were going to be looking over this, but what's different about it was that in the waiver, it said that he had to give up his rights and he was not going to be able to sue them for anything that happened within the workout, which normally it would just be injury. So that was something that they were not willing to agree to, and Colin Kaepernick's attorney said that it would be malpractice for him to tell him to sign that waiver. So if they couldn't come to an agreement and they moved, and I think that was the right decision for him for sure.
I personally think that was a publicity stunt. I think it all was for the fans, because I think he's been ready for the past 3 years, and yes, the NFL has denied him. But I think that was a publicity stunt, trying to get all his fans and everyone to be like, yeah, let him back in. Because as we just saw in those videos, everyone was like, yeah, he's ready. Let him back in. Let's go. But he did that for people to be like, for that reaction. He wanted that reaction. He got that. So I think it was a publicity stunt.
So do you think he doesn't actually want to play in the league?
I think he wants to play, but I think he wants to play, I don't know if he wants to play for the right reasons. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he might want a platform to talk.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think, Rachel?
I do believe that. I want to believe that he wants to play in the NFL again. And yeah, I will agree that the timing of this is a little off, and him moving was a little strange, and the NFL might not have reacted to it the way that he wanted, but he got a reaction out of it. So yeah, I will agree that he's looking for a reaction, but a reaction is what's going to get him back into the NFL. If he's not looked at by the coaches, by fans, by other players in this kind of a spotlight, he's really not going to get much more attention to get back to the field. And I really do think that he wants to play again. He hasn't thrown a ball since, 2016 now? It's been a long time, and he obviously can still play, so why not?
Personally, I think it was a publicity stunt for the NFL. I think they sent out this invite for him to come work out to make them look better and for them to show that, okay, we're going to put this in the form and he's not going to agree to it and he's going to go somewhere else, so that we can show people he's not in the right mindset. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I think they knew what was going to happen. Plus, the whole thing was fishy from the beginning. The fact that it was on a Saturday when the day off is usually on a Tuesday. And just the whole thing, they invited him and they said, you got 2 hours to tell us if you want to come or not. And that's just not how these things normally go. Yeah. I personally think it was a publicity stunt for the NFL to try to get people to see their side better. But we're going to have to wait and see if he does get picked up by any teams, because some teams did still follow him to the new location.
Who knows if he's even ready to be back out there playing again against guys who've been playing consecutively now every weekend. So who even knows? Yep. Now, before we head into our second pick, we had Rose Carter ask students their thoughts.
I'm now asking students what they think about Alex Morgan and her return to the soccer field just months after giving birth.
I mean, I think it's important to work out while being pregnant anyway, so might as well do something she's passionate about.
So I wouldn't say I'm the smartest at female anatomy, so I don't know how much that would affect her or affect the child. But if it works, I remember Serena Williams winning the Australian Open pregnant, so as long as she can do it, then yeah, and as long as she feels comfortable with it, and yeah.
It's like her body, I guess. If it's safe and she's talking to her doctor, it's her baby, her body. She wants to play, I guess I don't really see a problem with it.
As long as she has a physical capacity to do such, and she's an important influence and has an impact on the team, I don't see anything wrong with that. Yeah.
I think she has a doctor and they can tell her what good is and won't work for her, and she's a grown woman. She can figure it out.
I love this story. I think it's awesome that Alex Morgan is going to be doing this. Just shows how much strength that she has in herself and how much confidence she has in her body and being able to go through something like this. Alex even mentioned that she plans to follow in the footsteps of a lot of these players that have done this before. Like he mentioned, Serena Williams has done this. Carrie Walsh Jennings has done this. There are other people that have done this before. And for her to just come out and be like, I'm not the only one, she's putting herself on a platform that's a great platform. I don't see any negative aspect to this platform for her.
Yeah, what can I even say? This is just amazing. Childbirth and being pregnant is one thing, but then going out and playing soccer is just another. And I think that this kind of points to a bigger issue in our society, and just the fact that women wonder how they can follow their dream and also start a family. People even in this industry wonder how they can start a family while they're also trying to be, go where they want to in their career. And so I think it's really awesome that she's showing that you can do both. And that's exactly what she's doing, and it's just super inspiring.
Yeah, I agree. Soccer is not an easy sport. That's a tough sport. Girls run 8 miles per game, and other than the World Cup, this will be the best gift she's ever received, a child of her own. So I think that's awesome of her to go out and get that dream and then have this other dream of hers as well.
She's already a stud. She's an incredible soccer player, and for her to not give up on her dream like you kind of discussed already, it's just awesome to see her do this. And she's going to be such a great role model for following athletes, and for her own daughter too. She's going to be such a fantastic role model. And her dad's going to be a great role model too. She has great soccer players for parents, so it's going to be really cool to see her grow, and for her to be on the sidelines with her mom too when she's at these great, huge stages in her life. So.
Right, well, as we come to the end of our show, we couldn't leave without sharing a story on a local high school kicker.
So there you are, shuffling through a stack of resumes, and you come to mine. This is it, first impression, my way in. But can my resume show you how I truly stand out? That I was studying, going to night school while working 2 jobs just to help my parents pay for groceries. Or being the first one to always step up. No, that's something you just can't put on paper. Look beyond the resume and discover new ways to develop great talent that is dedicated, hardworking, and determined like me.
As we come to the end of our show, we couldn't leave without sharing a story on a local high school kicker.
Mountain View senior Shelby Olson is making history on her high school football team by being one of the first females to suit up.
And with a rough season, nothing was stopping her from getting on the field. Sydney Wicker was able to talk with Shelby about her becoming one of the members of the team and powering through adversity.
After years of not having a Powder Puff game at Mountain View High School, it was time to bring it back. Senior soccer player Shelby Olson showed up for the seniors and caught the eye of head football coach Bart Mays. And it wasn't long after he was asking her to come out and play with the boys.
I never knew this would be a thing. I hear about it from other schools all the time.
but you never think it would be you, which it can if you want it to be. So
As odd as it is for Olsen to be the only girl on the team, being the first one has its struggles. The locker room for Olsen is filled with silence as she puts her pads on by herself. It's the team dynamic she misses out on. But with it being a challenge for her, it's also an adjustment for the whole team as she suits up for the first time.
they're probably looking at me like, what is she doing out here? But me, I just kind of pushed that back and was like, let me show you. Just let me prove something or show you, and if it's not it, it's not it. But I'm going to try. I'm not going to stop.
If it was an ordinary Friday night, Shelby Olsen would find herself here amongst the student section in the bleachers. But tonight is no typical night for the city of Loveland and the Mountain View High School football team, because Shelby Olsen is suited up and she's ready to get after it.
I think I've surprised a few people out here, which is amazing. I hope I open their eyes up to a lot more possibilities.
Shelby has been just fantastic. She, this is all new for her and for us, really. But she works her tail off, and it's really inspirational for a lot of people just because she has put in the work, and she's in some very foreign territory, with being the only girl on a football field. So really proud of her, and hopefully at some point maybe she'll get an opportunity.
And in one of the last games of the season, the opportunity would finally come. Shelby Olsen would get her first kick of the season.
Atta girl!
Yeah!
That was a totally new experience. It was crazy, but I loved every second of it.
Very proud of her, very proud. She seems to do whatever she wants, and she does whatever she puts her mind to it.
Yeah, it's very exciting, especially in this time where women are becoming very empowered and, taking a lead, taking a stand. So, yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Now Olsen's only regret is that she wishes she started sooner. Time was not an issue for her, though, as she still was able to make history on her team. From Loveland, Colorado, I'm Sydney Wicker, CTV 11 Sports.
Well, Sydney, I was so lucky to be able to be there with you and meet Shelby. She is so brave, and she's just an awesome girl.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of just see a little bit in that story just how much she's really ready to get out there and play with the boys, and nothing was stopping her. She's all for it, and she loves that energy so much. So I was so touched to see that. But the coolest thing I think about Shelby's story is the fact that it's not just happening for her at the high school level. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers just opened up a scholarship for $250,000 for girls to be able to play football. And then we just found out today that Carly Lloyd is going to be in the NFL after the 2020 Olympics, and she's going to be kicking for an NFL team possibly. So I think that this is so cool to see this happen for Shelby, but also to know that this is also happening elsewhere.
Yeah. It's so exciting to see it at every possible level now, like you said.
Yeah, I agree. I wish I could do that. That's amazing. That's awesome. Well, Rams, that is all the time we have for tonight and this semester. Thank you for being a part of our show and helping us make history. We will be off for a few weeks.
But we will return on February 12th, 2020 at 7 in the evening. And for now, to stay updated on sports throughout the week, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at sports_CTV.
Tune back in tomorrow for more news from the people you know and to see Corey Odom breaking down the men's basketball game against Arkansas State. Until next time, keep changing the game and have a great night, Rams.